And welcome again to another episode of Mommy Chat with Oluseye. And today is a special one because I have here with me my dear friend and sister, Dr. Megor, and she's going to be sharing with us today about a very interesting topic. Starting with her today about motherhood and marriage, the delicate balance. Get into starting this off right away. And thank you, Dr. Megor, again for being a part of this. Something fun that is happening right now with you. I just want to share with us before we get into today.
Okay. I think it's very interesting. I like the way your own question is going, just very unexpected, right? So, so let me also share something a bit unexpected with you guys. And it will be the first time I think I'm sharing it publicly. But is that I'm in a very interesting place in my life right now when I thought I was done, with childbearing and had taken the normal medical steps that I knew how to in terms of contraception. I find myself pregnant with my fourth child, right? And I remember thinking to myself when I excuse me, please. When I found out.
That's okay.
I said to God, wow, God, you must really trust me. I mean, I don't know how else to explain this. You must really trust me to be giving me a fourth child when I feel like I was struggling with the three, struggling because 2020 was a very interesting year for us all. And I spent it homeschooling, most of the time, apart from the other things I had to do. Even when schools reopened in Nigeria, I didn't allow my children to go to school. It was another journey. So imagine, having that on top of all of this. So yeah, it's an interesting period of trying to find a new balance, right? Yes, a new balance and trying to recreate and just take this in. And then, because I'm someone that tries to be very intentional. My husband always says design precedes practice. So we just typically don't just let things happen, So yeah, so very interesting learning curve for me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I feel like you're here at the right moment, at the right time. Just because I feel like now you can tell us everything about marriage and motherhood. And now this new phase. I feel like you are even in a better position to even be chatting about this. So now let's get into today, which is, first of all, I want to know about you. Like everybody, I know you're my friend. But some people don't really know you. And so I'm just going to let you share. Who's Dr. Megor? Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Megor is a young lady who is consumed by a sense of purpose. I've been that way for a while. And that's, everything just has to make sense to me. Why are we here? What am I doing here? And how am I contributing positively to my world and serving my God in doing that? I am, like I said, a young mother of three, married to my partner in purpose. I'm very happy about that because that makes all the difference in many areas. And then I have three kids, a fourth on the way. I'm a medical doctor by training. I run an NGO focused on early childhood development. I also have another company that is focused on using media to reach parents and young mothers and help them with the tools they need to give their children the best start in life. What else? I like to dance. I like to
Interesting.
I like to look for trouble. I have the strength with the people that I love when I have the strength. Yeah. And yeah, that's pretty much me these days, I think.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I love when you said I like to look for trouble. Because I'm a little mischievous myself.
Life can be very boring sometimes.
I know, I'm a little mischievous myself. So when you say I like to look, I'm like, okay, that is me. I like to also find trouble, especially my husband's zone. For trouble somewhere, Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this motherhood and marriage thing. How did you meet your husband? your journey into marriage. Let's just give us the gist, the interesting scoop.
The gist. So, it was interesting because I think we say we met ourselves twice or three times. So the very first time we met, I was in secondary school, so that's like high school, excuse me, and he was in college, that's in university. And I mean, it was just a normal meeting, nothing, yeah, just knew him from afar, and that was it. There was another time we met, just separate, but then finally we met again when I got admission into the university, and he was in his final year. And we saw, and according to him, I was this new this new person, and and all of that. And
Wow.
yeah, so that's how we met. So so when we were on campus, there was a fellowship that we kind of both belonged to, like from my secondary school. The fellowship, that's a Christian fellowship, had like an outreach in my secondary school, which I was part of. So when I came into the university, I was determined not to be part of it anymore. I just wanted to go to where I wasn't known and all of that. But he just kept coming. He wouldn't let up to my room every day and saying, wanted to take me for fellowship and all of that. And after I dodged and dodged one of those days, I finally couldn't run out of excuses, and followed him. And I was going through a very rough patch in my life at the time. And I think God used him to get me to talk, and was the very first person I could really pour out my heart to. And God also used him to minister to me, to minister healing at the time. And so he became my mentor, really. I know a lot of people laugh and tease us about this, but he became my mentor, my teacher, and he still is in many ways. And taught me so much about a lot of things I know about life, about the word of God, made me read books. I grew like never before, and all of that. And so I was shocked when about 6 months after, he comes and says that he thinks he wants to spend the rest of his life with me. That's the kind of person, he's very direct. So he asked me to marry him straight up. And a few weeks later, he was meeting my family and saying the same thing. My mom was like, that's very audacious. She's young and all of that. So but anyway, we dated, and 5 years after, yeah. So we've been married it's going to be 12 years this year. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. You've been married for 11 years, like 11 and a half, going to be 12. Wow. Wow. And I want to pick you up on something you mentioned, which is this journey of healing, right? That you spoke about, in this journey of healing, about, and how your husband helped you. And the reason I'm picking up from there is because when we step into marriage, a lot of us usually come with baggage, from where we're coming from. We come with baggage. And whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not, whether we want to believe it or not, our past experiences play a very huge part in how we navigate our marriages, right? So I just wanted to share a little bit about, your journey into that place, and what do you think? How do you think that part of your past, of your journey, come before marriage, played a role in how you started off when you first got married, and are there things you can see that you say, oh, wow, it's because of this, like your natural reaction to something that is not even the way it's supposed to be, something like that. Yeah.
Very interesting question. I mean, in fact, in the book my husband and I just wrote, I think we start off the book talking about that. And it's something I talk about a lot. You see, according to statistics, myself and my husband should not be married today. We shouldn't have the kind of family that we have today. We shouldn't enjoy the kind of life that we do today. Largely because I'm from a very interesting background, right? In my background, everything happened, from polygamy to divorce to remarriage to adultery to violence. I mean, almost everything and everything in between, right? And so it was very broken for me. I never had that example of how things should be, and where I come from, you know, we're just a lot of drama. Yes, that's it. Just a lot of drama. I'm not even joking. Like, when I give people some examples of things that go on, that used to go on in my house on a normal day, they can't believe it. Like, you know, this home Nollywood should be, you know, getting scripts from us. No joke. That is just from another day. Like, Fuji House of Commotion is learning. I'm not even kidding. So, but yes, that's where I came from. So you can imagine, and my husband came from the exact opposite kind of background, you know, very you know, very arranged, very chaste, you know, religious, you know, very controlled upbringing. And so coming together, my sisters, just go figure. One of the areas I had a big issue was conflict resolution, right? Now, where I came from, if you're angry, you shout, you scream, you hit, you fight, you break something, you cry, you know, and then, you know, everybody's okay, you know, everybody's okay. And now I get married to this young man who, you know, just refuses to accept that bad behavior. He'll do something, I'm hurt and I'm trying to express myself, and he'll say to me, look, I know that I hurt you or whatever I said, but bad behavior is bad behavior. The fact that
No excuse
said
for bad
you
behavior.
the right to speak to me in that tone, and I'm like, excuse me, sir. I don't understand. It's like you're carrying a knife, you are cutting my leg. You are saying, no, don't cry like that. Bring your voice down here. What did you say? You say I should stop using. I couldn't understand it. I mean, the woman I am today, I didn't know it was possible to actually have a conversation, to be upset, and to find a way to actually resolve that upset without becoming aggressive, without becoming insulting, you know, putting the other person down, and just unnecessarily dramatic, right? Because what used to happen, I would find, is that everything gets swept up in the drama, in the emotion, and then he cannot deal. I learned also that, you know, presenting emotions like that to most men, you know, presenting, you're trying to present facts, but in all the emotions, they can't deal. So it just walks away. It shuts down, walks away, and it makes it worse. I start crying. I'm like, you don't love me. How can you love somebody? You see the person in pain and you're, you know, so that was one major. So communication, and we all know that communication is the bedrock, you know, of any relationship. So imagine if you could not actually work through those things. So that was one thing that really affected me. I think another thing too, because I had this craving for the love of my father. You know, my parents ended up being separated for about a decade, thereabout, and all of that. And so I also came in expecting my husband to father me, and overlook a lot of things. Like, and just because, you know, I was also drawn to, even before I met him, I was drawn to older men. Right? Like, the first person I dated was like 15 years older than me. My husband is 7 years older than me, but he was the youngest person I ever seriously considered. I mean, it was that I wouldn't even see you, you know, if you are not a certain age. It was just something in me, you know, crying out for. And I thought, you know, you should just overlook and know that this small girl, I know how to pet me and all that, but he wasn't having it. He insisted that we must walk through it and no shortcuts. And today I'm proud and really surprised of the work that God has done in my life, that I can actually have very serious, we have weathered storms that should have broken us to pieces, you know, and being able to actually navigate, you know, talk about it, resolve it, handle it, come up with it. Is such a miracle. Wow. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And you know, the thing that I hear you say is, even though you started off on a, like, say, a weird, wrong note, right? Yeah. Growing up, and you know, you get into the marriage, and the person saying, I'm sorry, but we will have to resolve this thing. Like, we cannot allow this to be a problem. We cannot allow this to break us. We cannot allow these issues or whatever, or maybe mindsets or thinking or whatever. We cannot allow them to determine how our own future will look like as a family. So what I hear you say is, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. It doesn't
Oh,
matter what kind
absolutely.
of background you've had.
Mm-hmm.
Every behavior can be unlearned.
Mm-hmm.
And you can adopt new behavior. I mean, if you are saying
Yeah.
this, considering what you shared about your background and everything, and now you're here saying, I'm this totally different woman, I can't even believe it.
Mm-hmm.
So my next question will be, are there things you did in particular,
Yeah.
to ensure
Yeah.
that you were not going to keep going back to your
Mm-hmm.
default setting of how you were raised and say, you know what, I just want to go forward. I refuse to allow myself to be this person. Other things that you did that can help someone who's watching, who's listening, who say, I just need help in this area.
Mm. Absolutely. And like I said, we shared that in the book we wrote together. It's 11-11.
11,
We
11,
shared
yeah.
11, yeah, because it's 11 major principles that we've learned about marriage in the first 11 years,
Yeah.
of our marriage. And I think one thing I had to learn was that marriage, is a farm, right? And that speaks very clearly to intentionality. I think for some reason I didn't know that. I mean, I thought I by the time I met my husband and all of that, I was on fire for God again and all of that. I thought I made the right choice. Good girl, good guy. Come on, we're going to take on the world. What else do we need? I was so wrong. I was so wrong. And that actually was the first thing when I realized that, you have to work it, because if you do nothing, think about a typical farm. If you do nothing, right, you would think logically that what should happen, nothing should happen now because you did nothing, right? But no, if you do nothing, weeds will grow. Something will be happening, what you do not want to happen, right? Weeds will grow, and after a while you cannot recognize that farm. But if you're intentional, first of all, about having a picture, okay, what do I want for this farm? What do I want to plant? Is it corn? Is it this? Is it that? Do I want it to be a garden? And start from there, and then you begin to till the soil based on the kind of things you want to plant. We all know, for example, corn doesn't grow in the same time or the same soil as something like apple or rice, for example. So you want to create the right kind of environment. You want to use the right tools to till the ground, and then you want to be consistent, in your planting and your pruning and your, just nurturing until you get to the harvest. And if you do those things, of course, you will harvest what you planted, right? So let's take that and just juxtapose it into marriage. So I think for me, the turning point was when I realized it. I said, they didn't tell us, so marriage is work. Why didn't they said, if they had told you, won't believe. I'm like, no, somebody that sat down to clearly explain that, your gal.
I know.
That is, it's not for the faint-hearted. You will have to, it will push you to the very limits of who you think you are, push you through it. And, but the beautiful thing is that, I think it was C.S. Lewis, I'm just paraphrasing now, but there was this beautiful quote, and he said he believes that actually marriage is the singular, most effective place that God designed for like pruning and sandpaper, those things, like making you the highest version of yourself in preparation for eternity. And it makes so much sense, because guys, I mean, anyone who's married here, test you in love, in forgiveness, in sacrifice, everything, right? And so for me, being intentional was one part. I had to sit down. You see, I described where I was coming from. One thing I was sure was that I did not want to recreate that. It was clear. So I now had to say, okay, after a while, okay, I know what I don't want. What do I want, right? What do I want? Initially, I didn't know that I had to articulate that. So I had to sit down, articulate, and thank God for the kind of person my husband is. And, to say, okay, this is what I want. This is what we want to characterize our home. So we go as far as having a family charter. In fact, my husband is a management consultant and strategist. You won't believe the tools that we use. Yeah, there's this stream analysis tools used for building companies. We use it for our home. Like, you look at the organizing arrangements, you look at the technology, you look at the social factors and different things. So yeah, from how physically, what do I want people to experience when they step into my home? From that part, what do I want our culture to be? like with the children. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, for you, it might be you want to respect what are our core values, right? What do I think our vision is as a family? What do I, because for me, again, because of that background I came from, I was convicted and I had a word, you know, that God was choosing us, bringing us from our different backgrounds, bringing us together to begin a new nation for him that he was going to use and raise godly seed for specific purposes. So I have, you know, so I had to seek that out to say, okay, what is this for? Because I believe that a marriage is a union, is a partnership for amazing things. You guys have seen what a power couple can achieve if you are aligned, you know, in purpose and all of that. I mean, there's just no stopping you. And I think that every family actually has a role. There's that something, you know, it might be different, even in terms of how you're to raise your children, what direction and all of those things. And so we started to do it, and then we started to have, you know, create. So based on that design, we started to create, do things on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly basis to give us that kind of life. I don't know if I have time. Then I can mention some of those things under these whatever. But if not, maybe later I'll talk about it.
I love it. Something you said that really struck me is this design. You know, and it's something that I advocate all the time, which is generally. So let's even assume that we're not talking about marriage, but even in your life, like you think you live life acting like let it just come. No, you, like you said, first thing you said was you made up your mind of what you didn't want and what you wanted. And based on that, you created this design of what it should look like, right? And from that design, you started to immediately put things in your daily, weekly, monthly, annual. But a lot of us, sometimes, you know, we just assume that things are going to just go a certain way. And we're not deliberate about how we want things to look, what kind of marriage do I want to have. Maybe because, I mean, growing up, when I was much younger, I always had this picture in my mind about the kind of home that I wanted to have, right? And so getting into marriage, I started to immediately say, I don't want this, I want that. Or how kind of children do I want to raise? So some things I cannot allow my children to do this because, well, this kind of family I'm trying to. But a lot of us, maybe you started out not with intention, but it's fine because wherever you are today, you can decide that from today, it's never too late. I want to live my life, my marriage, you know, with intentionality, and I want this kind of family. And that's what I've heard Dr. Megor say, because saying that I didn't start off this way, but along the way I said, it cannot work. Can I do something else? You know, can we make this work another way? And can we cultivate it like a farm and say, what kind of seeds do we want to plant on this farm? Or should we start from the future? What kind of harvest do we want to reap?
Yeah.
Because that's what determines the kind of
backwards.
seed we are trying to plant today.
Yeah.
And that's what I hear her say, you know, what kind of harvest we want to see. I'm picturing my children in 10 years. I'm like, okay, what kind of children have I raised after these 10 years? So what can I do today to ensure that I'm raising, you know, that I'm putting these seeds now so that in those 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, I'm seeing that harvest in them. And that's what I want us to take away, you know, from what she just said right now. And that brings me, you know, quickly to my next question about motherhood. You know, what's your own journey like in terms of getting into motherhood? And how did you, at any point in time in your marriage, did you have to now make any adjustments to your already let's say decision that you said, oh, I want a good marriage and all that? Did you have to make any further adjustments in your marriage to accommodate this new phase of motherhood? And how are we now going to navigate this season that we found ourselves in? What did you have to do?
Absolutely. So that's funny because again, in my family, like I said, I come from a very large family. In all, I think we're about 18 kids, you know, from both sides. And I'm the last of my mom's kids, right? On this long line. And so I never got the opportunity to help anybody carry any baby or take care of any baby. So I was never the person to be doing my ovaries. Nothing is happening to my ovaries. When people see babies and like, oh, so cute. I see babies, they are all so cute and all of that, but bye, you know. So I could never describe myself as a children person. So it's interesting that today I'm focused on early childhood development, and it was motherhood that did that for me, because I had my first child. Of course, we made different, because I mean, as a spin-off from the adjustments we had started to make in our marriage. You know, we had our first child at like the 3rd year into marriage, so he benefited already. One of the things we let our TV go, because it was interfering with our relationship. So for about 9 years in our lives now, we do not have a TV in our house. And so because we wanted the bond and all, and it has really helped. And then of course, understanding the effects that it has on babies, you know, 0 to 2, for example, the recommendation professionally is no screen time, but that's another story. So for example, we started to make those kind of shifts because of our children. Now, when I had my second child, that's another thing I need to say to everyone, that guys, kids are different. Like, God will give you, they are so different, and you need to understand the personality, the strengths and the weaknesses of each of your children. Every child is like a seed, and what kind of environment will they thrive in, and what do they need? And so I had this second child, you know, a girl. My first was a son, who was so strong-willed. So strong-willed. Started talking early, walking early. At 18 months, knew what she wanted. And remember my background again. Of course, we always resort to our defaults, you know. So the only tool I had in my parenting toolbox was to shout or to spank. And it was crazy. I got up to a point where, you know, dealing with a very young child, I'm finding myself spanking almost every day. And I told myself, nah, there has to be a better way. And so I reached out to one of my mentors. That's another thing that I share that has helped us along the way, you know, adopting the right mentors for different areas of your life, marriage, parenting, you know, different areas. So I love the way she had raised her children. I just asked her how, you know, and she mentioned that she never had to spank her children. I'm like, wait, you said, at that point in my life, I'm sorry, guys, if I sound very, you know, primitive, but I had never heard it. I had never met someone, a Nigerian mother who raised her children in Nigeria, who did, you know, so that started another journey for me. And that's how, you know, I went deeper into the whole early childhood thing, trying to understand child psychology, and how kids develop, and a better way to do things. And oh my goodness, again, in that regard, I look back, I mean, even my son comments, you know, he's older, he's gonna be 9 in a few days. And I have a 5-year-old, you know, and you know, when that he's just like, oh, that you are so lucky. Like, mommy is not the way she used to be before. You know, and it has really affected my parenting, and the way I do things, you know, learning positive discipline and learning to, again, like you said, determine what kind of children do I want to raise. And so everything is about, because of the kind of, I don't want to raise children who, you know, are not afraid, who are afraid to speak their mind, who are conditioned, who are watching what everybody is doing and are aligning because they're afraid to be different, who have none. And I want to raise children that ask the questions why, children who are not just consumers, but children who are innovators, children. So it's, I mean, for example, like I said, no TV in my house. Like, our routine is different. There are certain things that we do because I drum it into their heads that, see, you are a creator. Like, when you sit down in front of a device, you should be asking yourself, how does this thing work? And what was the mind of the person that created it, and all of that, not just being a recipient of something that someone else created. You know, for example, making them understand that they are children of God, they were created here, they are here for a purpose, for a time like this, and they are lights. And everywhere we go, we have to shine that light. We have to be leaders. And of course, leading by example. I think that's one of the most, the toughest things to do as a parent, because I think parenting is also designed by God to fine-tune us a bit more, because it puts pressure on you to really become better. Yeah, and I think parenting has done that for me as well.
Wow. You know, this thing that you're saying, it's you know, sometimes when you're trying to look for people, it's like what they call, there's a possibility of something this thing exists somewhere, right? And that's my own number one lesson from what you just said. Looking at the fact that it is possible to have a family where nobody's screaming or nobody's yelling or somebody's not killing their children, every day, or like what you just said about that you don't have TV in your home and all of that. I remember before we moved to Canada and we're in Nigeria, my children, they didn't used to watch TV during the week, like no TV during the week. You only allowed to watch TV during the weekend because there's no school, no distraction, nothing. Just when you come from school, you do your homework and all of that. So before that, it is possible. Not that it's a possibility. Like, really?
Yeah.
It used to be weird to people when I used to say then. So now hearing you say that you don't even have a TV, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, it's even another level, it's another level. And it just makes me see that whatever kind of life we want for ourselves, it's just going to take you going against the grain. Exactly. You can create the kind of atmosphere that you want in your home, you want in your marriage, you want in your motherhood,
in your life.
See it. Don't let the world shove things down your throats. It's what a lot of us are like. And this thing about consumerism, honestly, like you just said about the average Black person is created to consume. And we never question things, you never question things. You never think, oh, what else? Can I do differently? Must I always take what everybody says? Must I always accept it as a norm? And I create something for myself.
My own. What do I want?
Exactly. What do I want? What do I want in my marriage?
Yeah.
My own family, in my own home. Do I have to copy another person's owners? Because there's something wrong with modeling. Maybe I love what they're doing, like what you said. I love what they're doing. I think I can ask some questions about how they're doing it. But what do you want? A lot of us are afraid to be different or to say, this is what I want. I don't want that. And because they're like, oh, they'll judge me. We dare not say we don't want TV in our house. And all those things that we or people's opinions of how life should look. And I hear you and I hear you loud and clear. And I'm just imploring everyone who's listening, to also go back and say, what do I want? What do I want? And what am I going to do to ensure that I get it? And like I was sharing with ladies in Amom University, the Happy Moms Club a few days ago, or just yesterday now, saying that when it comes to life, there's always trade-offs, There's always going to be trade-offs in our lives. What do I have to give up? It could be the TV, to be able to have that life that we want in this family.
And those sacrifices, they are not easy. Like people see me and ask me how do you raise kids? Because unfortunately, some people now have a situation where some of their kids will not eat without TV. They will not do they will know what to do, without it. And saying that, I say, no, but we have devices, for example, and just like you said, during the week, school time, no devices at all. And during the weekends, and then we do have movie night, like tonight now is movie night. So we have a projector instead, and we project the movies that we have chosen, to watch. There's this channel, for parents here who Yippee. Yippee, it's directed actually at I think Christian families, where unlike having Netflix, so there are safer stuff for kids that they can watch during the week. So, but that's just the one of most of the time they're interacting with devices, I bought tablets and took them away because I just felt instead everybody has a laptop and there are different things that you can do there, so the kids are teaching themselves PowerPoint, they're doing different things, things that I'm like, oh wow, video editing. I'm like, how did you do that? Just by themselves, in the time that they have to do it. So it's not like they're missing out, like I think we're also too afraid of that.
FOMO, right? You're missing out.
Go to school and say, oh, I don't know this show. They come back and say, my friends are talking about. I say, so your friends, do they also know Khan Academy? Have they learned? Do they have the coding certificates for level this that they have also done? So all of us will have different paths and we're going in different directions. And so just must be true to ourselves.
That's it. We should not be afraid to be different. We should not be afraid to decide what we want in our home and stick to it and say no. I was just telling my children, some funny thing, I was just having a conversation earlier today, during the devotion, saying that we have to get to a point in our life where we're not afraid to just be different. Like, I just want to, I shouldn't be afraid to say that this is why must I conform to your idea of what something should look like? Why do I need to conform to that? And a lot of us are afraid of being different, of standing out in the crowd. And we've lost our identity. Even as believers, as children of God, as Christians, we've lost that identity because we're afraid of anybody labeling us and saying, oh, you're a fanatic, you're this, you're that. I don't really care anybody. Anyway, personally, if you think that I am that, I have no apologies for the life that I want to live. And that's really up to us. And thank you for sharing, those little things, because it gives us a glimpse into what is possible, into what is possible. It is possible to live our lives in a way that will always definitely, be what we want. We don't have to copy other people and all of that. So, and that kind of like brings me somehow to what I want to talk about next, which is about this. So now motherhood, and then there's marriage here, there's motherhood here, and then we're trying to have this balance of, okay, I'm raising a good family. I want my family to look like this. I want my marriage to look like this, but I'm spending so much energy into raising my children like this that it looks like I don't have any left to make my marriage like this. If you get what I mean. So, so there's that delicate balance, where we constantly have to juggle. Okay, I want family. My ideal family is like this. And in that family, the umbrella of family is marriage and motherhood. Right? So how do I marry these things together in such a way that one is not going to give for the other, and we're constantly moving in the same direction together, in both our marriage and in our parenting.
Yeah. Again, I think it starts from articulating it, what you want for yourself, for your home, your marriage, your kind of relationship you want with your husband and your children, how you want them to be, the kind of individuals you want to raise them to be. Having done that, I would say it's all centered first on you, self. When I interact with women, there's this program I take some women through. It's like a personal consulting, session, and I always start from self-care. We're all women here. We know how much, especially in Africa, you cannot give what you don't have.
Yes, ma'am.
That's how we try to. So when we leave places like this, you want to go and start implementing different things again, doing things for your husband, but it starts with you, because you will burn out and then you begin to resent the people that you're supposed to love and care for. So for me, it starts with self-care. I have gone through, the different, I was just talking about recently, 2020, for example, where we were and all of that. But in the midst of it, I try my best. I don't play with my self-care. So first, again, on a daily, weekly, monthly, so on a daily basis, for example, if it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes for myself, whether it's the 30 minutes I wake up first to, whatever it is that fills your tank, you have to be able to articulate to yourself, what are your fillers, what are your drainers? The things that you do that take from you and the things that you do that fill you is different for all of us.
Yeah.
For something that can be a drainer for one person can be a filler for another person, So sit down and write those things, and then you take your fillers and actively try to do those things for yourself now on a weekly basis. So for me, on the days where I'm able to have that, my morning devotion, 30 minutes before I now go and start waking everybody up and getting them ready for the day is different. It's very clear because I've taken time to fill my tank, before I engage. Now my cup of coffee time on, I have one red chair that is my happy place, the reclining chair in my house. At that time, I don't want to know if everywhere is let's say be falling down, but there are some things I do. Then on a weekly basis, I do different things. So in a month, one day might be hair day, that's for me, makes me feel good. Another day might be nail day. I go and do my nails. Another day might be I go and get facial something, or another day might be I just go out and hang out with a female friend, like me, a mom, all of us just say, when the kids are in school, I try to put my Mondays as my free days for me on a weekly basis. Now on a monthly basis, I have been trying to do this. I've not been able to achieve it regularly, right? But I would really love to go away, right, for 1 or 2 days, because I do very well like that, just go reboot and all those things. You see, I have found look, when I go to the spa, when I come back, I'm ready for my husband. I don't need, you see, many times you are waiting for him to be the one to fill your tank for you to be. It doesn't necessarily have to come from him.
Yeah.
The tank just has to be full. And you see that when you can now give from that place, you know, of confidence and of, you know, yourself, you are the best version, then you will begin to see things that you have been yearning for, probably nagging about and all that. But by the time you're no longer looking at his face, you know, when you get what you need to get first from God, and then yourself, you are better, you know, tools to give, you know, so then you can focus on Oga, and then you can now focus on your children, right? But I think everything is about structuring it. Just like you said, those two relationships are different. One of the things we've learned to have date nights for us if we're in the same city on the same day, on every Thursday evening is date night for both of us. So we try to, if we can't go out, we lock ourselves in the room and we just have that time where we're not trying to talk about bills or the kids or anything. We're trying to bond. And there's this ultimate intimacy app that helps. It has like some conversation starters if you like hit a rut in your marriage, to actually get you guys talking about those things, you know, that actually spark romance and stuff like that in your marriage. And now after we had done that for a while, it was the kids that they said to us that, Mommy, this is not fair. Friday night has to be family nights. So it's now all of us, the kids will do something. If it's moving out, we play board games or we do this and all of that. And we're like, okay, good idea, right? So that is for them. So when we're there, you know, it's focused for them. I also try to have times with the kids every day. Maybe it might be even as little as 5 to 10 minutes with each child. You know, that's personal, where you get to feel the pulse of every child and all that. So it's really about structuring your, first of all, understanding that yes, it starts from you. Secondly, that yes, these are two different relationships. And one, I know there was a time I think I was feeding my marital relationship more, and my children were like, Mommy and Daddy, you could like yourselves too much. It's like, you could don't like children, you could just like yourselves. And I was like, yes, I don't know, that is my best friend, you know, and all of that. But I learned, for me, that was you know, something that like, okay, no, they shouldn't be feeling that way. Even though yes, it's good to have that model of a good marriage, but we need to focus on them, to also water them and watch them. So, you know, it's a it's like walking. Sometimes it feels like walking a tightrope. Yes, it's a balancing act. But the beautiful thing in juggling many balls is that it's the motion that keeps it going. It's the motion. So you keep, I mean, you just keep doing that. But at the center, please, is you taking care of yourself. You giving yourself up and giving from, you know, your overflow.
Wow. I mean, you've said so much in just that saying, talking about yourself, because it's like that's where a lot of us are just having trouble. This thing you're talking about I put myself on my calendar. I am important like that. In fact, my calendar for myself this year, I've already set it to last day before we enter the new year. Like I can't deal. Like my Mondays is this, every Monday is my last time I put that for myself. Every last whatever weekend of the month, every quarter when I do this, every once a year, like that, 7 days in a year, everything I put in my calendar, because I don't want anything to come back and say, oh, so when I check my calendar, are you available? No, I'm not. I can release it, I'm not available. It's not because I'm doing something else with another person.
Yeah.
It's because I'm doing something with myself, and I'm that important. I am important like that. Please see value in yourself. You are the I feel like you're the most important thing in this whole equation.
Yes.
You are the most important person here. Without you, there'll be no your marriage. What marriage are you talking about? Or what motherhood are you talking about? You are crucial to everything. Your marriage, your motherhood, your purpose for your life. You are the one at the center. Please, take all things that she's talking about. They are so crucial. Take care of yourself first so that you can give from a full tank. That's where you can even have the presence of mind about what do I want to see happen in my marriage, or what do I want to see happen for my children. When you're tired, burnt out, overwhelmed, believe me, you're not going to be living from like a reactive. You're not going to be proactive at all. You're going to be living so reactively that you are not even having time to plan anything out. You know, and I love what somebody's saying here about the fact that sometimes there's a feeling of guilt. And that's something that I actually was thinking about earlier today, about this mom guilt thing. There's mom guilt somewhere there. is if you're taking care of yourself, you feel like, oh, what about my children? If you're taking care of your children, what about my husband? You know, we always have that guilt. And one thing that has helped me, and I'm going to ask Dr. Megor to share hers as well. One thing that has really helped me, you know, and I think we talked about this also in our last moment chat when we were talking about productivity and growth with with Nikki Famojiro. And she was saying that by planning every single part of your life helps you to get rid of mom guilt. Number one, when you plan your children into your calendar, you will already see that in this calendar, everybody has space.
Here, yeah.
I have space, my children have space, my husband has space. What's remaining? Everybody has space. Why would I feel guilty for having my own space? Do you get what I'm saying? So just having life by design, like Dr. Megor said, is just have that life by design. What do I want to see happen for me, for my husband, for my children? And I put everybody into the calendar. I think that helps. So now I'm not feeling guilty when I'm taking my own time because I'm giving you all time. I don't have to feel guilty for doing that. I was telling my children the other day that I said, guess what the best part of my day is? Guess what the best part of my I can't remember what it was my day or something like that. Guess what it is? And they kept trying to guess, you know, is it when you're just even I can't remember what they were even saying. And I said, so my older daughter said, is it when you're telling us bye-bye when we're going to school? I said, well, see me something close, right? And I said, it's actually a funny thing. And she was kind of right, you know. And I was like, do you know that you're close? It's actually the fact that I get to spend this time with you guys, like telling you bye-bye to go to school and welcome you back home. Is why I've chosen my life. The life I've chosen is deliberate. Being able to be home and say, welcome guys, I was school today. Honestly, it gives me joy.
Part of the plan,
So when I've welcomed you, I've sent you off. You see that I've given you all this time to make sure they're fine. Have you packed your bags? Are you fine? Have you taken your jacket? Are you taking your snow pants? Have you taken a mask? And I've sent you off to school. And I'm home, I'm working. You cannot tell me that I have been a selfish mother.
Thank you.
You can't tell me that. You know, and that is just what it is. And I love somebody saying something about it takes discipline and knowing what and accepting what you want. I think discipline, a lot of us don't have it. The discipline to even plan yourself into your calendar. We don't have it. Some of us are we just live life the way it comes. We're not deliberate about how we program our day or our lives or our month or our weeks or whatever. I want to just also talk about that, which is, you know, what do you do or to ensure that guilt is not killing you, or you don't even have it at all? I don't have it.
I don't have it anymore.
I don't have
it. And that's for many of the reasons, you know, that you have said, because when you articulate to yourself, you know, that planning helps to say, oh, I plan to spend so time, number of, you know, with the kids, right? And it's not just that, because I mean, it's open-ended. You can't spend 24 hours with anybody, there are different facets of your life, right? So when you put everything in front of you and you can plan it in like that, and you know, you also have special times, like now, I mean, sometimes twice they've wanted to come in, but before I came in here, I had that conversation that, please guys, and I had to actually, because I mean, this is supposed to be family night. I'm actually not supposed to do this tonight. So I had to, you know, I said that, and it's okay, I'll make it up to you like this, you know, and all of that. So, but having setting up, you know, this machinery in place, you know, this routine, things that happen, just like she said on that, like you said, you chose the life, be able to send your kids to school and be able to receive them back. That's also a decision that you make career-wise. You don't have to do that, right? That's another thing I made as a medical doctor, not to go the clinical route, for example, because of the phase of family that we're in, and I have absolutely no regrets about that. So just putting that. But there's something I want to talk about, because I know I've heard this question a lot. What's the difference between self-centeredness and self-care? When people say self-care, this self-care thing is entering into your head, you are becoming and all of that. And this usually comes from a religious background. I don't know how many of us here are Christians and all that, but I'm all Christians. You see, the Bible, I try to make people, first of all, the Bible says that Jesus Christ every day told us that he would, early in the morning, before anybody else wakes up and all that, he goes. He loved the world, they wanted to save the world. Or sometimes people are pursuing him. Remember, He will disappear to go and be alone. But people are dying. How can he leave us? We need to, he needs to come and heal the sick and raise the dead, right? So those were, I mean, those were, life or death issues. But he knew the importance. He did it as a routine. And then from time to time, he would just disappear in the middle of this and just go. And they said they'll go and see him at the other side and all that. Why? Being alone. That was me time, because he understood that was so key to him fulfilling his purpose. There's no way he could have had the results that he had in his life if he never took that time to be alone with his God. That was his refueling time. That was the time he received. It was there he settled all those things. That's why he could come out, the way he could come out. And so that's the first thing. The Bible also talks about it. The same Jesus said to us, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I know that, I mean, we take it for granted as you love yourself, but some of us have never learned to love ourselves. And so that's why some of us even find it difficult to love our neighbors. Some of us cannot, for the life of us, fathom, for example, maybe giving a particular amount of money out. They're like, what? Because, I mean, I cannot even spend that on myself. Why would I give that to someone, for example? That's because you haven't learned to. So you see, to me, it's biblical. It's biblical. The Bible always stresses on it. It says what Jesus Christ began to do and to teach. He was doing it first. Take heed unto yourself and the flock, so that after you have preached to everybody and all that, you yourself, you will not be found wanting. It's possible. You can minister to your family members and at the end of the day, you'll be empty and you will miss it. So please, if you have ever had those questions in your mind, I hope I've been able to just throw a little light that self-care is biblical, is necessary. Christ did it. Who are you? Who am I? We cannot function without it. So you must plan it in. It must be part of your routine. You must do it on a regular basis.
I love it. I love it so very much, and honestly, everybody say love it. Yes, because if you remember, we've been doing this series on rest, about the rhythms of when the Bible talks about the fact that you should come and learn of me. Let me teach you the real way to rest.
Yeah.
The real way to rest. It's a rhythm. And the rhythm, and the most important thing that we have to realize that we are children of God, following after this same master, that is Jesus. And he said, come, let me teach you. I'll teach you what it means to really rest. Rest is a lifestyle, not a vacation. Yeah. It's a lifestyle. You build rest into your everyday routine. This thing that Megor is talking about, giving yourself 15 minutes, 30 minutes every day. It's part of the rest you're building into your lifestyle. Not until you have totally worn out. Say, vacation, 1 week, in 1 year. You haven't even made it a lifestyle. Like every single day, your me time. How many times are you spending with yourself? What are you doing in that time? I was saying, it may sound very weird to you ladies, but I was sharing and I was just drinking, and I was really serious about how I had to learn. I'm not joking. Like I had to make up my mind. I will not eat when I'm working. It was a big deal for me because I am such a worker that even to give myself 30 minutes and say, I do self-care in other ways, but this one, where I'll carry my food to my table and say, as I'm eating, I'm working. I said, no, never again. Except maybe something happens, like maybe like have an emergency or something else to do. Let me quickly eat like I have. But normally, no. I said, no, I'm not doing it again. I will carry my food to the dining table. I'll put it on there, finish my food. I will not do anything else in that time. Those things are so important because we feel this need to always be on the go, always on the move. So when Jesus was telling you, come, let me teach you how to really rest, what true rest is like. The same Jesus Christ that will go away and say, I'm going away. I just want to be by myself. I'm praying and being alone. It's the same Jesus Christ that told the disciples, let's go alone. As they were going, people followed them. He said, okay, you know what? Since they are ready, let's feed them. So that's how you learn a rhythm of rest. Because there will be times when you're trying to rest and God says, somebody needs attention, get up and go and attend to them. You won't say because like what Dr. Megor is doing here right now. She won't say because it's family night, even though it's important, she needs to keep that time special to say, duty calls. Can we reschedule? Can we, like, guys, I'll make it up to you. It's a rhythm. So it's not a rule thing or you must do this, otherwise something will happen. No, it's a rhythm. And it's about just staying with God. Let him teach you this rhythm, even for marriage. For this mother we were talking about, it's a real thing. If you stay with him, you teach you, say, you're not spending enough time with your husband. Make adjustments. You say, okay, I hear you, God. You make that adjustment. Say, you're not spending enough time with me. What do I do? What do I do? Make this time, make this time. It's wisdom that comes from him. So it's not a matter of rules. Oh, don't do this every day. Or you do. It's a rhythm. And we learn it by taking time with, to spend time with God and just to follow him as he leads us. And so I've had this great, beautiful discussion with you, Dr. Megor, just today, honestly, because things to bring into light are things that we just go back and just think about them. Think about them. Am I living my life by design? You talked about design, about intentionality, about marriage as a farm, or even our motherhood as a farm. We cultivate these things. We make effort for it. And I hear you loud and clear. And I'm taking my notes. I'm going to start to implement some of these things in my life and just being more deliberate on this journey that we are on as mothers to ensure that no area of our lives is left uncared for. It is so crucial. So now it's time for us to do a bit of questions. If anybody has any questions, please drop it in the chat, even though we're kind of like running out of time already. But if you have questions you want us to take, if you want to ask a question and you want to speak, please let me know so I can unmute you and you can share your questions with us. So you can raise your hand or put it in the chat and I can just quickly unmute you. You can have like a bit of a few minutes to take one or two questions before we have to go. So if you're like that, it feels like we've answered some as we're coming already anyway in the chat. But if anybody still feels a need to talk about something that we didn't talk about, you want to ask Dr. Megor a question, you want her to address something that you have as a point of confusion or something, please let us know and we can take them before she has to go today. All right. Anybody? Okay. Beju says, can I create the atmosphere I want without a husband? Oh, I love it. Do you have anything?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think that's the best time. If you were here from the beginning and you heard my stories, in fact, if I had the chance to do with some of those things before I found myself with a husband, I would have been the better for it. So yes, it's what do you want? What do you want for your life? And it's everything. And sometimes, unfortunately, it depends on what part of the world you live in. But for us here, as young women, you get to a particular age and it's almost like your life stops. You are waiting to be married. And I feel that's so sad. Excuse me, because it's one of the best times of your life where you can do whatever you want to do. You don't need now, it's not easy for two to work together in agreement. Couples have place of agreement on almost everything. Trust me. So yes, and I would really like to urge you to begin to practice some of these things. Self-care, planning your routine, plugging it in, making yourself a priority, making sure your tank is full, giving to people even where you live, I say lots of single women just live okay, when I go to my husband's house, no, it doesn't matter if you live in a one room. And for me, environments are important, right? I love nice, beautiful spaces. So even when I was in school, first of all, when I was in, normal hostel, and then I moved off campus, oh God, I spent all my money for the first 1 month after I moved in. I was almost hungry every day. But once I just come in and see my beautiful room, I'm full, right? So I treated myself like I made this princess bed, sprinkled silver, and I can't forget. I made furniture that made me feel good, that made me feel, special. So I like to come home to her. So creating the atmosphere, yes, the spiritual atmosphere, emotional atmosphere, the physical atmosphere, and the right kind of relationships. You absolutely can, and you should.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. Somebody else dropped a private question. The person says, what if the husband is not supportive in being intentional, so that there are arguments, we are trying to model these new changes? What can you do?
Yeah. Oh, yes. And that is a question we hear a lot. It's a big challenge, especially again, depending on the background of your husband. The truth is, many times that is going to be and I'm hoping that you guys have someone in your life that perhaps your husband is accountable to, your husband respects, or, you know, that has some sort of influence. Because honestly, at times like this, the most effective way, you know, from just general experience and life, has been to go through those people to reach your husband at such a time, you know, because most men are wired differently than us. In fact, sometimes it's an issue when you are digesting a new material or growing on a new plane, and the other person, you know. So for us, for example, one of our principles that has helped us is the ability to try to carry each other along. But it was easier because, well, we're pretty much aligned, right, in purpose. For some,
Your
it's not
values.
that way, and I understand that, yes. And so sometimes sometimes it's like one person is speaking Greek and the other person is speaking, you know, Edo. Is that, you know, you cannot communicate. But sometimes if you have someone else that you trust and you respect, that may be able to make that case, who understands you, can be able to make that case in a different way to your husband. And then you also want to work to try to help surround your husband with the right kind of influences. Okay, if you know the kind of people he likes, I do that. And in fact, I think my husband does it more than me. I had to learn it from there, where he goes out, he meets people, and like, you have to meet this person, you know, and he says the things that, and so this is the wisdom, you know, as a woman, you would say the things that you know your husband would like. So for maybe the guy is a successful businessman and all of that, that's why you want him to just say it and leave it there. However, for you, it's because of the man's values, the person's values, you know, maybe the person's family, the other things you've noticed. But no. You don't want to go pushing into his face. If you come and say, this man is doing all the things that you are not doing, you've lost him, right? So you want to, you know, use wisdom to and say, okay, you know, try to set up a date or invite the person over, or say, well, let's go and say hello. Okay, those kinds of things, to nurture those kinds of relationships, so that, you know, you have other people speaking into his life that are also, you know, that
I love
helps
it.
to
I love what you said, you know, about trying to let him see, you know, because what I've realized is that a lot of us don't understand, and you're trying to force somebody to be something that they don't even know is possible to be.
Yeah.
You're forcing somebody to become what they don't even believe is possible to become.
Yeah.
But by introducing them to someone else who has those values, or who is doing those things that you want them to do, not that you're going to tell them, I want you to go there so they can see what they are doing. No, it's just exposing them to the possibility that this thing exists. That's all you really need.
Yeah.
You know, and then that may be what he really needs to say, oh wow, this person, I really like the way they do. I like what the kind of life they're living, and also it's even possible to live this way.
It will come from him.
Exactly. You'll be even be the one to say, well, I think we can do this. I think we can do this, because he's exposed to the possibility. Sometimes they just don't know. It's not like they want to be weak and say, I'm not going to do it like that. It's just that they don't know it's possible. And even by telling them it's possible, it's not enough. Sometimes they need to see it. And that's where I wanted to even talk about you. Sometimes you need to become that person. You know, you want your husband to do a certain thing. You may need to become that person who's doing that thing, because that may be the only way that he sees that it's possible for it to be done. So, well, even if you don't find someone else who you can model after for now, you be that person. You want a more loving atmosphere in your home. You create that loving atmosphere by yourself first. You want your children to be raised a certain way. You start it first by yourself. When he starts to see the results, you'll be like, oh wow, this is good. Children are not watching TV. Oh wow, okay. I see that they're doing better in school. All right, well, that's a good idea. You know, sometimes you may need to be the model first before you even find another person. So I would say, I know it's a selfless thing to do, and that is love. That is the love that Jesus Christ is advocating for us to have. But it's tough. It's tough because you're like, your flesh is telling you, no, he has to be the one. He's not the head of the family. You know, that's your flesh pinching you and saying, no, I'm not doing that. But the true way to follow Jesus is actually to be selfless. And it's tough, but it's possible. That's what I believe. It is possible. It's tough, but it's possible. It is doable. So yeah, thank you, Dr. Megor. And before we go, I want you to just share with us, you know, how can we reach you? So some people will have other things, you know, where are you? Where can we find you? And then please talk about your book.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think across social media platforms, can find me at Dr. Megor. That's at DrMegor. And even though you would notice that I go on very will I say long or frequent social media breaks, and I have no apologies for that. It's also part of my plan and part of my design. But yeah, yes, you can find me there. I think I noticed that Shaya had shared the link to the book. Yes. So if you order now, it's still like in the pre-order phase, and then we'll get them across to you. Also, there is a course I'm about to launch, which I'm very excited about. It's a mother care course. It's for new mothers. There's some sound bites that I shared with Shea.
Yes.
I mean, I'm passionate about producing original African stuff, and so from the perspective of a medical professional, what in Africa, taking the good parts of our culture. So we call it the omugwo, for those of us that know, that care you give to mother and child after birth. The omugwo essential course. We have the ones for moms and the ones for dads. And when it's ready, I'm sure for share, we could pass a code through Long University, so that everyone who buys from here gets to get the course for dads for free.
That is so generous. Thank you.
It's amazing.
I'm excited about it myself. Like,
everybody needs practical. And expect more, more to come from there, more practical things to come from there. So everything you need to know when you give birth to a baby and to raising baby, taking care of the baby and all that, taking care of yourself and getting anybody else to take care of you, whether it's your nanny or mother-in-law, mother at that time, or friend.
I love it. Thank you so much. So, I mean, the book is there. I put the link in the chat. So if you want to pre-order the book, it's her sharing 11 lessons from her, or both of them sharing, she and her husband sharing 11 lessons from their 11 years of marriage. And it is such a powerful, I mean, I read a bit of, I'm like, this is heavy stuff. It's really good things that they share. So you want to go there, you want to get a copy for yourself. It's going to really help you in your marriage as well. Okay, so you can hear us saying this amazing thing that's going to be coming to Mom University. For those of you there, I mean, most of us here are kind of like Mom University already. If you're not there yet, I mean, apart from even being able to give you access to Dr. Megor's course when it comes out, we also have a few more courses launching again in the fall. Not even in the fall, in the next term, not in the fall, in our summer term. New courses coming to you. We're going to be starting off a new course on public speaking. And apart from what we already offer, we're also going to be doing a course on project management. So yeah, many great things are coming your way for those that are already here. I mean, great things are coming for those that are not yet here. Of course, jump on board when the opportunity comes for you to be able to come. It's been an exciting time sharing with you today, Dr. Megor. I've had a great time and just chatting with you. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you. Anybody wants to show Dr. Megor some love in the chat? To tell how much is appreciated. Tell her thank you so much.
Thank you so
much for being amazing.
Thank you for having me.
In spite of all the things that are already going on in your life, we love you. We love you.
I love you too. Thank you.
Thank you so very, very, very much. Thank you. Okay, everyone. It's been an amazing time again here on Mommy Chats. And in another 2 weeks, we'll bring another episode of Mommy Chats. And we're going to be looking at motherhood and career, the delicate balance. And of course, we know that we're still going to continue with our Monday chats, where we share with you something on motherhood, on family, on faith, and on life. And I look forward to having all of you joining again the next time. Have a beautiful rest of your day if you live in my part of the world, or if you live in another part of the world, have a good night and God bless. Bye, everyone. Take care. Bye.